Hello and welcome back to Planet 40k. Today we have another review coming from the Space Marine Codex with the Outriders squad. So these models came out with the Indominus box set around the middle of 2020, built up as Primaris version of the regular Space Marine bike squad. So by the end of the video we'll not only have discussed the unit itself, but we'll also see how they come up against a normal regular bike squad. Firstly, let's take a look at their data sheet. So coming from the fast attack options, they're 6 power or 45 points per bike. You get 2 Outriders and an Outrider Sergeant within the unit. Unfortunately, you can't add more to the unit. There was people hoping that when the new codex come out that you would be able to add to the unit, but unfortunately it is capped at 3 Outriders. So as for the keywords, they can go in any chapter. They're a core unit, they've got the Primaris keyword, and they're a biker. As for their stat line, movement 14 inch, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 5, wounds 4, attacks 2, leadership 7 and a 3+ save. So the sergeant within the unit has an extra attack, bringing his attacks to 3. And he's also got an 8 for his leadership, which the entire unit can benefit from. So a good amount of wounds at 4 apiece. Everything else here is what you'd expect from a bike unit really. Very speedy, quite tough, and basically standard marine stats there. So looking at their abilities, they've got the marine standard of having Angels of Death, which is an umbrella of 4 different rules merged into one. So the 4 rules are included are And Thou Shalt Know No Fear, which is the ability to not take any modifiers to combat attrition tests. Probably won't be much of a factor for your Outriders too often, as there's only 3 of them. Bolt to Discipline, which affects how you use your rapid fire weapons. Now bikers in particular are affected, as they're obviously a biker, so what it means is their rapid fire weapons can shoot at full range and still fire double the amount of shots. Shock Assault, which is where if your Outriders were charged or heroically intervened, then each model within the unit will gain an additional attack. Then finally, Combat Doctrines, which is a buff to your armor penetration of weapons. So each battle round gives you a buff to certain weapons. So battle round 1, it's going to apply to heavy weapons and grenades. Battle round 2, it goes on rapid fire and assault weapons. Battle round 3, you've got the option of keeping it the same as battle round 2 or change it to pistols and melee weapons. Then on battle rounds 4 and 5, it will stay on pistols and melee weapons. So on to the more unique abilities then. Devastating Charge, which is if the unit charged, they're going to gain 2 additional attacks in that fight phase. Not bad. They can Turbo Boost, which is an auto 6 inches when advancing rather than rolling for it. Then finally, they've just got the Raven Wing keyword, which only affects Dark Angel players here. It simply gives them the Raven Wing keyword, which interacts better with all the Dark Angel stuff. Now their book is actually going to be coming out next month, so I'm not going to go too much in depth with what the Dark Angels can do with these guys. Moving into the stock weapon and loadout, so they come with a heavy bolt pistol, a twin bolt rifle and an Astartes chainsword. Then of course the frag and crack grenades are standard. So for the heavy bolt pistol then, it's an 18 inch range, pistol 1, strength 4, -1 AP and single damage. So it's only really useful if you're in combat. You can't fire it with your other ranged weapons, so that added range that it's got is kind of pointless. However, that -1 AP is a nice perk. The twin bolt rifle is 30 inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 4, -1 AP and single damage. So with bolt to discipline, you're firing double shots even at 30 inch range. So 4 shots per model, and again at -1 AP is a nice little perk to have. Pretty useful for clearing out screens and other weak units that are holding objectives. Especially in battle rounds 2 and 3 is the best time to be firing this, as you'll be in the tactical doctrine at that stage, giving you an extra -1 AP. So your bolt rifles will be a -2 AP weapon. The Astartes chainswords are strength user, making them a strength 4, -1 AP and single damage, and each time the bearer fights you get an additional attack with a weapon. So before doing all the maths that we usually do at this stage of the video, we need to work out exactly how many attacks the unit is going to be getting. So it's quite easy to miscount here. So these guys are getting 2 attacks base. Now they're very likely to be gaining an attack for Shock Assault, bringing you up to 3 each. The chainsword itself gives you another attack, giving you 4. Then finally, the Devastating Charge ability gives you another 2 each, resulting in 6 attacks each. And then the Sergeant actually having 7 due to his own stat line being slightly different. So in total you should have 19 attacks here. 19 attacks hitting on 3s will bring you on average 12.6 hits. Now when attacking enemy units that are toughness 3, you're only going to need 3s to wound, so resulting in approximately 8.4 wounds going through. Versus toughness 4 it will be 6.3. Then versus toughness 5, 6 and 7 it's going to be 4.2 wounds going there. Then finally toughness 8, it's going to be 2.1 wounds on average there. All of course being -1 AP and single damage, so looking at the figures, your Outriders should only really be targeting toughness 4 or less. Anything more is just not really that worth it. I mean, bear in mind that each of these wounds that go through still have the chance of being saved with an armor throw, because the AP actually isn't that high. Elite units will have a lot of wounds, so you could be chipping some wounds off of those from afar, but you should have better units within your list to deal with these such models such as your elites, monsters and vehicles. Something else worth thinking about is that from turn 3 onwards, you're in the Assault Doctrine if you want to choose that. So actually it will become -2 AP weapon, which is much better. Outriders, I see them more as infantry hunters. They really should just take advantage of their speed and push weaker units off of the objectives, or just clearing out screens that are blocking movement or just bogging them down. So that's the weapons. Unfortunately there's no options here for upgrades, so you will field them as they come, which isn't all that fun. Looking into other areas of the Space Marine Codex to help them out then. So firstly, going into the Stratagem, you've got Transhuman Physiology for 1 CP. It basically means your opponent cannot wound your unit on a 1, 2 or 3. So another way of looking at it is bringing your opponent's weapon down to a strength 5, as the best they can do is wound you on a 4. Not bad if you're being targeted early on to prevent your opponent losing those early objectives. Hit and run warfare for 1 CP is handy because it allows you to fall back and then shoot. Pretty good considering that you only get the 2 extra attacks when you've charged, so if you're still in combat on your turn then you probably want to get out. Then the bonus of course being able to shoot 4 shots per model on the way out. Skilled Riders for 1 CP lets your bikers at advance become a -1 to hit if they are targeted within your opponent's shooting phase, so not that bad. Looking next into an area of the book to aid your Outriders is the Warlord traits themselves. So obviously the unit can't carry the traits, but some of the traits are aura buffs for core units in particular, so they should be considered while creating your army. So the 2 in particular that I'm looking at are the Storm of Fire and Rites of War. Now the Storm of Fire aura works on core units within 6 inches, and any wound rolls over 6 from a ranged weapon will increase the AP by 1. However, this does not stack with your combat doctrines, i.e. in Battle Round 2 this won't stack to make it a -3, but when you're not in that tactical doctrine then all of the other battle rounds will still give you the -2 AP if you're close by the Warlord. So a biked Warlord could be quite helpful if you wanted to go down the bike route. Rites of War, which is also a 6-inch aura for core units, so this gives your Outriders objective secured. Now I like this one as if you do get to pull it off, you can speed down the board, steal an objective that's either in the centre of the battle or in your opponent's half of the table, have objective secured, which is not only giving you lots of points but it's also denying your opponent points, and of course if you've got more objectives than they've got, that's even more points. Now having 4 wounds a model is going to really force your opponent's hand to having to deal with them, and bear in mind that a unit of 3 is 135 points. It's not that bad to throw away. I mean, of course you will need a Warlord on top to do this, but these are the kind of tactics that can win you a game of 40k. More character buffs from the Codex come from your Psyker with a psychic ability, so the Veil of Time giving your Outriders a reroll to charge, and being able to fight first if they're already in combat, not bad. Might of Heroes gives you a +1 to your strength, toughness and attacks. That's a really solid one, especially for the stats, making you a strength 5, toughness 6 and potentially 22 attacks for a unit of 3. And if the Assault Doctrine is on, then -2 AP on top. The last psychic ability here of course is the Psychic Fortress, everyone's favourite, giving your Outriders a 5+ invuln save. Litanies are next with your Chaplains and Priests. The standard one, Litany of Hate, giving you rerolls to hit in melee, always nice. The Litany of Faith giving you a 5+ feel no pain against mortal wounds. Quite handy as your bikes are more likely to be upfield and most likely be the target of a lot of smite attacks. Catechism of Fire, which is where if you target the nearest enemy unit with your ranged weapons, then you'll be a +1 to wound. Not bad. You can also do this in melee with the Exhortation of Rage, which is probably a better option as you're going to be getting more attacks in melee than you're going to be doing in range attacks. 19 in melee versus the 12 in shooting. If you still did prefer to keep yourself at range and fire from afar, then the Recitation of Focus will add 1 to your hit rolls with range attacks, although range bikes is quite odd, especially if you could just have a captain doing similar buffs. The last one affects your charge, called the Canticle of Hate, which adds 2 to your charge roll, and it also extends your pilings and consolidations by 1 inch. Now going back to those captains, they all have the Rites of Battle, which is rerolls of 1 to hit in any phase. Quite straightforward, and it's an aura too. Lieutenants do the same thing, but they reroll 1s to wound, also very handy. Apothecaries work really nice with any units with a lot of wounds, as they've got quite a few different abilities to buff them, so they've got 3 ways here. The first one is Combat Restoratives, regaining D3 lost wound in each movement phase, nice. Secondly, Narcissism, which gives you a 6+ feel no pain against any wounds taken, also pretty good. And thirdly, the Stratagem, Combat Revival. For 1 CP, you simply return a dead Outrider back to the unit with all 4 of its wounds remaining. Just get your model straight back there for 45 points, not too bad. As far as the chapters go, I'll mention just a few here that have quite obvious synergy with the Outriders. Now, the Dark Angels will be getting their supplement in the not too distant future, but as they currently stand, their chapter tactics are Grim Resolve, which is if they stay stationary, you get +1 to your hits. Not bad to remove early screens without throwing your Outriders array too early. Currently their doctrine is Relentless Hunt, which adds 6 inches to their rapid fire weapons. But as I said, this may change when the book is released in early 2021. So I'm not going to go too deep into their other rules and stratagems. Again, it may just change. As for the White Scars though, they've got Lightning Assault, which is being able to charge when they advanced or fell back. So a really solid ability for your bikes if they want to be getting the charge off each turn to gain those more attacks. Their doctrine is Devastating Charge, which is while in the Assault doctrine, melee attacks performed by the unit that charged or performed a hero intervention will deal 1 more damage. Now when this does trigger, you've already activated your Shock Assault because you've charged, so you're going to be getting an extra attack from that too. And in your Assault doctrine, you're going to be getting -1 AP for your Chainsword as well. And now each of these wounds is going to be 2 damage a pop. That's going to start to really remove models fast off the board. And they've got their own stratagems as well, such as Born in the Saddle, which is the ability to advance and still shoot, giving you a 50-inch threat range from all your shooting. Feinting Withdrawal is being able to fall back and then shoot. Then of course you tie that back in with the Lightning Assault being able to charge as well. Fierce Rivalries lets you roll 3d6 for your charge roll and discard the lowest, so giving you a much better chance of getting into combat. I mean, there's tons more within the supplement, so have a look at that. So overall, a speedy unit that can steal objectives, can shoot and can perform quite well in combat. They do all those things, but I wouldn't call them versatile, as you're only really able to deal with toughness 4, toughness 5 at a push, and you've got no options whatsoever to kit your Outriders out. So like most units within the Codex, they work well with others, as a lot of the units are core. For me, they do seem to fit the White Guard supplement quite well, because there's a lot of different unique abilities for them. But as for the others, I'm not too sure. Now we do need to discuss how they stack up against a regular bike unit. So here's my take on it. A regular bike unit can have 8 bikes and an attack bike on top. Now they pretty much have the same sort of stats, except they drop a wound and an attack, of course. Now they're only 30 points each base, but that unit can have a selection of types of weapons. You could have combi melters in there, combi flamers, combi all sorts. So they can be versatile with whatever you're going up against, you can change it up. Normal bikes can also combat squad if needed, so bear that in mind. Now doing a bit of maths here, trying to make the 2 units as similar as possible, you could get 5 Chainsaw Bikers for 150 points, whereas 3 Outriders are 135 points, which is obviously 15 points less. Now the guns on the bikes themselves are doing the same in terms of the amount of shots, although the Outriders get 30-inch range as opposed to 24-inch range. But with the standard Bikers, you're going to be firing 20 bolt gun shots, because there's 5 of them, as opposed to the Outriders having just 12 shots. Then looking at combat, if they were both to get into combat on the charge, the standard bikes will have 1 attack each, Shock Assault giving them an extra attack, and then the Chainswords as well, giving you a total of 15 attacks, and then 1 more for the Sergeant, of course, giving you 16. Whereas the Outriders, as we already discussed earlier, will have 19. So they've only got 3 more attacks. Once they're in combat, these figures do change. So the regular bikes will have 11 attacks. They'll be losing 5 for the Shock Assault, not going off. The Outriders will only be on 9 attacks, because they'll lose the Shock Assault and the Devastating Charge too. However, the Outriders do keep their heavy bolt pistols, whereas the regular bikes do have to give up their pistols for the Chainswords. So an extra 3 shots can be fired there, bringing them back up to 12. So again, there's not too much difference there. Now in terms of wounds, the regular bikes have 15 wounds for the unit of 5, and the Outriders have only got a unit total of 12. Although when the bikers do die, and they will die a little bit more frequently than the Outriders, their overall effectiveness will drop in all categories, of course. So in all honesty, I don't see much difference between them when you try and compare them like for like. Of course, the regular bikes can add to the unit and bring lots of different special weapons on top, which for me just makes them a better purchase. I mean, in terms of having the models and buying them, you can be more flexible with them. And as I said already, you can combat squad them too. So I feel like the Outriders are just a model that doesn't really fulfill a purpose, as the regular bikes already have that role in place. But I'm sure if you put those Outriders in a White Scar chapter, then there's plenty of ways to make them perform much better than the standard bikes, with stratagems and other supplement boosts. So for all said and done, I think I'm going to be giving the Outriders a Planet 40k rating of 3 out of 5. Just average for me. They're only really getting certain targets, and bikes do pretty much everything they do. Playing a certain chapter could make the rating go up and down slightly, but as for standard Space Marines, I think it's just average. That's what I think. Let me know what you think below. Remember to subscribe not to miss out on any more 40k content. Also remember to smash that like button on your way out. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.